ISIS militants who killed American journalist James Foley. Tonight, British intelligence officials believe they know who the man in the mask is on that tape. The question now, how will the U.S. respond? NBC's Peter Alexander is at the White House with what they're saying there. Peter, good evening.
Lester, good evening to you. With his summer break behind him, President Obama huddled today with senior advisors and his defense secretary here at the White House. And while the White House is facing growing pressure to act in Syria, aides here say the president has made no decisions yet whether to strike ISIS forces there. ISIS is expanding its reach. This new propaganda video highlighting the extremist fighters' weeks-long assault on a military base in northern Syria. It's now fallen under ISIS control. The brutality of ISIS was brought home to Americans 1 week ago with the shocking execution of American journalist James Foley. Now, U.S. and British intelligence officials think they've identified his killer through voice and facial recognition techniques, despite the fact the killer was masked.
They say they can never be 100% sure, but they believe that they've got the individual that actually conducted the killing.
Tonight, intelligence officials tell NBC News they won't release the individual's name because they don't want the suspected killer to know he's being tracked. Just back from his vacation, President Obama is weighing whether to expand the fight into Syria, a step he's been reluctant to take in the past.
It's important for the United States to pursue a comprehensive approach to countering the threat that's posed by ISIL.
Joint Chiefs Chairman General Martin Dempsey said today he would recommend against U.S. airstrikes in Syria because he says there's no sign ISIS is actively plotting against the homeland. The Pentagon is preparing options to confront ISIS both in Iraq and Syria. They include intelligence sharing with European allies and partners in the region, more arms to moderate rebel forces, and airstrikes. A senior administration official tells NBC News potential targets inside Syria have already been identified, and in spite of the current assessment, a former White House counterterrorism director expects the U.S. will turn up the heat on ISIS.
I think it is extremely likely that the U.S. over the coming weeks will hit targets in Syria belonging to ISIS. Without doing so, we will be faced with a very difficult challenge, simply playing the defense on what is a real terror threat to the United States and Europe.
Complicating matters, the Syrian regime today warned the U.S. against any military action inside Syria without Syrian consent. If the U.S. does strike ISIS in Syria, White House aides tell NBC News not to expect any presidential announcements, Lester, until after the fact.
All right, Peter, thanks. In Ferguson, Missouri today, the streets were cleared. No marches, no protests, as thousands gathered in nearby St. Louis for the funeral of Michael Brown, the unarmed teen shot and killed during an